got my card.
I'm honored to sit next to you, Sheikh.
No, Imam, I'm on it. In fact, I'm just gonna listen to you, man. Yeah, man.
All right.
Huh? No way. You serious?
Alhamdulillah, we were before
my
that, so
God.
that was a big blessing.
MashaAllah.
Alhamdulillah.
Wow.
Alhamdulillah.
I'm thinking you got.
No, I'd have 10 if I could.
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah. Thank you for coming to this session. And we are blessed to be led today. On my left-hand side, we have our Imam, Sheikh Hassan Musa. And you already know him. I don't need to introduce him to you guys. But we have Imam Siraj next to him. And Imam Siraj, it doesn't need an introduction either because he's globally known. And mashallah, he's impacted Islam in the West so much, actually globally so much, that really like introducing him is becomes very difficult. But he has over 40 years of experience delivering riveting messages, rooted in hope and encouraging Muslims and inspiring Muslims. So alhamdulillah, we're blessed to have him here with us to share his experience with us, inshallah. And next to him, we have Sister Suzi Ismail, who is the founder and leader of Cornerstone Counseling, which is based in New Jersey. And this one here is focused on youth identity and relationship building. So alhamdulillah, the great work that they do, we are here today and blessed to be in front of them, listen to them and getting the knowledge and the experience from them. So join me in welcoming Imam Siraj and Sister Suzi to ICGC. And Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay, so I just wanted to say thank you guys for coming out to our youth conference. We really, really appreciate it, especially for you parents coming to the parent track, because it really shows like how much you guys care. And taking the time out of your day, waking up early to come and listen to these amazing speakers who I had the opportunity to be able to listen to yesterday. So alhamdulillah, they have a lot of good stuff to say. So inshallah, thank you so much for coming.
Who's first? You want to go first? You want to go first? Okay. You going up there or you? Okay.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونشكره ونستعينه ونستغفره ونتوب إليه ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي السلام عليكم. Alhamdulillah, I'm happy to see that we have a good number of parents here. I know it's hard on a Sunday as we're managing our schedules, prepping for the week, trying to get everything in to show up. But I think it's what we as parents need to do every day for our children, for the community, for those that have been entrusted to us, to show up. And to show up in how we raise our children, to show up in how we connect with them, to show up in how we communicate with them. I know I was telling the organizers earlier that my intended talk for today, I wound up scrapping it after the sessions that I had with the children yesterday. And I scrapped it because of something very interesting that occurred. In the first session that I had with the youth yesterday, and it was part of the older track, the session was called Gender Interactions and Dating. And so towards the end of the session, the kids were riled up and excited, and we got very enthusiastic about the topic. At the end of the session, I told the children, take my number, and if you have a question, text it to me, because this is a topic where there may be thoughts on your mind, there may be something that you want to ask, but it's embarrassing to ask it, or you don't want anyone to see you giving me the paper or standing up and asking it. And so I gave my number, expecting that I'd get maybe 3, 4, 5 questions. I stayed up last night answering 74 different text message questions. Subhanallah. And as I read each question and tried to give each question the weight that each one deserved, I realized that the difficulties our children are facing are rooted in something much deeper than, are my children dating? What are they looking at online? Are they vaping? Are they juuling? Who are they acting up with? Who are they engaging with? It is rooted in something much deeper, and it's rooted in the act of communication. Where are my children going for the answers that they're seeking? Who are my children asking when they have these types of questions? What access do they have outside of the home, outside of their parents, outside of their siblings? And how can those answers shape them? How can they mold them into the people that they're going to grow up to be? So again, being someone who likes to look at data and to kind of quantitatively analyze what's coming in, I took a look at all of the questions and categorized them. And it turned out that 49% of the questions, although the topic had nothing to do with this subject and it focused on gender interaction, 49% of the questions were LGBTQ related. Questions about what happens if I have a gay friend? I think I might be gay, but I don't know how to tell my parents. Is it haram to be gay? Why can't I just be gay, but not necessarily be intimate with someone? Is it okay if I smash with my gay friend? For those of you who don't know Smash, Urban Dictionary is a wonderful resource. You don't know Smash. Smash is very inappropriate. Yes. It's slang for a very inappropriate act. Yeah, it's a slang for a very inappropriate act. And it's something that's, usually the child goes on Snapchat, they get HMU, hit me up. HMU is followed by wanna smash. Wanna smash is followed by many other things that our children are engaging in. And so that's why I wanted to shift the dialogue a little bit today and focus on what's on our children's mind. So 49% were LGBTQ related of those 74 questions I got. And actually, when I went into the speaker's room, it went up to 76 because the last question that I just got was from a child that said, I wasn't at your lecture yesterday, but my friend gave me your number because I have this question. Can I ask it of you? So of all of these questions, 49% were LGBTQ. 19% of the questions had to do with hijab. My parents are forcing me to wear hijab. Why do I have to wear hijab? I'm not comfortable in it. Really, is hijab part of the deen, or is it okay if I just dress modestly? Okay, so a lot of questions in that area. And I wrote down my In many parenting talks, many Islamic parenting talks, I'm sure you have, covered the ground of the 3 different stages of tarbiyah. That there is the stage of tarbiyah that begins in those early days, age 0 to 7, the second stage of tarbiyah from 8 to 14, and the third stage from 15 to 21. And in that first stage of tarbiyah from 0 to 7, we often think of the child as being like the master towards the parent. It's the age of security, the age of safety, the age when our children look to us as their role models. When our daughter may dress up in a gown and put a veil on her head and say, I want to be like mommy. When our sons may carry a briefcase or kick a soccer ball and say, I want to be like daddy. It's such a brief period of time, though, in which our children are watching us and looking to us and thinking, you are my hero. But it's also such a critical foundational time for our children, because it's the time when we give our children that sense of security to say, this is a safe place. This is a place that you can come to. This is a place that you can, openly be who you are. Talk to us about what's on your mind. How do we do that? This is the age where when you come to pick up your child from school, maybe your child is in kindergarten, 5, 6 years old. They hop into the car and you say, how was your day? And you never hear the end of it. I dropped my crayon and then, Muhammad picked up the crayon and then he put it up his nose and I told him that's disgusting. And, then I said, give it back to me. And this is true story, my own daughter. When in kindergarten, this was, constantly Muhammad and the crayon up his nose, But this is the age where they want to tell you about what's going on. Now, this is the age where we as parents may be driving and we say, okay, fine. Okay, well, I'm on the phone now, right? I'm busy now. We may be cooking and we'll say, okay, go play with your sister. Go tell your sister. Go tell your brother. It is so easy at that age for us to dismiss the story of the crayon because it's not important to us. Because we're worrying about bills and we're worrying about our homes and we're worrying about our spouses. We're worrying about our older children. We're worrying about our siblings. We're worrying about our aging parents. We're worrying about so many other things that crayon, that pencil, that story doesn't seem important. But what we're telling our child in that stage, when we're not listening, is that they are not important. What we're telling our child in that stage, when we prioritize the text that we're sending, the message we're typing on our laptop, the dishes that we're washing, the cooking that has to be done, when we prioritize that over the words of our children, then we are shutting them out. And so when they enter the next stage, the age of discipline, from age 8 to 14, when your 13-year-old comes into the car after school and you're like, how was school? And you get, How was the math test? Fine. How was fine, right? You get an eye roll, you get one word, you get shut out. And it's in those moments that our children are essentially recognizing that it wasn't important to us when they were younger for us to listen. Now they, for them, have found other outlets. It's their friends that they want to talk to. It's whoever it is online that they're engaging with. It's putting on their beats and shutting themselves in their room with their phone in hand and escaping what's around them. Because the foundation may have been shaky. During that foundation, it may have been a foundation of discipline, of distance, a foundation in which the feeling of closeness and being able to communicate with the parent wasn't there. It may have been a foundation that was built looking at the parents, husband and wife, arguing, shouting at each other, stonewalling, not listening, not communicating, not connecting. And our children learn those behaviors because we are their role models at that time. And so as they grow older and move away from looking to us as being their everything, they begin to seek their everything somewhere else. They look at their friends' homes, they look at their friends' parents, they look at what's on television, they look at what's on YouTube, and they begin to define their reality based on the pieces that they gather outside of the home. And as much as this is a normal transition in childhood into those tween and teenage years, we as parents have that obligation to assist in that transition, to help them get through it by being there, by ensuring that we are providing that safe space, that connection. How do we do that? You know, often when we give marriage talks, myself or any of our other interventionists at Cornerstone, we refer to the verse in the Quran in Surah Al-Rum, which is known as the marriage verse. And we often focus very heavily on the verse that speaks of mawadda wa rahmah. We focus very heavily on why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought together two people, لِتَسْكَنُوا إِلَيْهَا, to find that sukoon, to find that rest. But when we look at that marriage verse, we see that the verse before it and the verses that follow it give us the complete guideline of how we are meant to communicate and live within the family dynamic, not just between husband and wife. Because the verse that precedes the marriage verse is a verse in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that He has created us as basharun tantasharun, that He has dispersed us as human beings who have been dispersed throughout the world. We are different. We are different as husband and wife. We are different as parent and children. We are different. And then as we continue through the verses and we see each of the subsequent verses ends with a reminder, ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that these are miracles for qawm yatafakkarun, for those who think, ya'qalun, for those who reason, yasma'un, for those who listen. All elements that are critical in communication, thinking, listening, understanding, reasoning. And we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the verse that follows that marriage verse that we spoke about. He speaks about the differences in our colors and in our tongues. اختلاف ألسنتكم. What does that mean? And why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surround this marriage verse that Allah in His infinite wisdom knows that we will refer to at the start of every wedding, knows that it will be an integral part of our journey of connecting with another person? Why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remind us of our differences? And particularly the differences in our colors and in our tongues. Because those differences exist. And we see those differences in the way that we communicate with our children and with our spouses. You know, a few years back, there was this great little book that came out called The Languages of Love by Gary Chapman. Some of you may be familiar with it. And you know, as the years progressed, the languages of love began to be applied, not just to the marital relationship, but also to the parent-child relationship. And you know, we would see it quite frequently in our offices where we would have, for example, a husband and wife who might come in. And the wife may say something like, he doesn't love me. You know, he never says you're beautiful. He never says, you know, you look nice today. And the husband might respond and say something like, I just vacuumed the whole house for you, woman. What do you want from me, right? And we see in that situation that this wife is speaking the language of affirmation. Her language of love is that she needs to hear those words. And the husband is speaking the language of service. I do so much for you. Now let's look at the parent and child dynamic. We've had many children come in, teenagers come in and say, you know, my parents don't love me. You know, they're just taking care of me out of obligation because they have to. And when we ask why, oftentimes the response will be, it's not like they spend time with me. It's not like they hug me. It's not like they say they love me. And when we speak to the parents, or the parents are often in the room as this conversation is happening, oftentimes the response is, how much do I buy for you? I take you to school, I bring you back from school, I take you to soccer, I pick you back up from soccer. I just bought you those Yeezys the other day. And again, we're seeing a child who is speaking the language of affirmation, needing to hear the words of I love you. A child who is speaking the language of time, wanting to genuinely spend time with the parents, even if it's not cool to say so as a teen, but feeling rejected, feeling not loved, feeling like they're being pushed away because they feel like the parents have no time. And speaking the language of touch, which in our communities, unfortunately, it's hard sometimes. For many of us, we didn't grow up in lovey-dovey, huggy kind of families. We hugged on you know, holidays and, you know, every leap year, maybe once every 4 years, right? It wasn't something we were comfortable with. And so with our children who are growing up in a community in the West where touch is become an integral part of being connected with someone, if they are not receiving that touch of love at home, they're going to seek it elsewhere. If they're not receiving those words of affirmation at home, they will seek it elsewhere. And this is why what we see happening in this rise of the LGBTQ movement, we see a society that has decided that any connection with another individual must essentially be taken to the next level. So you cannot just be empathetic with a friend of the same gender. If you are compassionate towards that person, if you enjoy spending time with that person, if that person lights up the room, for you when you walk into it or when you see them, then you must be gay. Because it can't end there. There has to be another level. When we look at the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam and the Sahaba, the companionship, the love of companionship was very different than what you would call friendship or what you would call acquaintances or colleagues or peers. It was a love that was very deep because it was rooted in a love for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In a secular society that has moved away from this concept of love for a higher power, in a secular society that has moved very much towards the individualistic sense of succumbing to desire immediately and instant gratification, it is a society that cannot comprehend what companionship really means. And so in order to be able to fit this concept of companionship into a box that fits a secular society, a secular mindset, that focuses on individual desire and gratification, there is this sense that this must end in intimacy, that any relationship cannot be a relationship that remains purely for a love that is greater than the love of what's in it for me. And so what's in it for me boils down to the lowest common denominator, the lowest factor, the basest desire, which is a carnal desire, the desire of the body. That is a desire that exists in all animals, not just in humans. But what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us as humans is that aql, that elevated sense of rationale and reasoning, because we are not meant to give in to that basest desire, that nafs al-ammara that pushes us towards instant gratification, that is essentially taught in our school systems, that is taught to our children in the music and the books and everything that they're exposed to. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us for a higher purpose. But our children struggle with understanding what that higher purpose is. Because it's easier sometimes to believe the friends who give you time. It's easier sometimes to listen to the teacher or the professor at school who says that you're important, you're special, you're beautiful, you're amazing, when at home all they hear is, Yahmar, how could you get an F on this test? You're not smart, you're never going to succeed. When all they hear is criticism and put-downs. Then the narrative that's being offered to them from another place becomes a narrative of love, because it speaks their language. It is the lisan that they've been seeking. And so when the lisan that we are using at home with our children differs from what they hear and understand and what they need, we are not going to be able to reach them. And so yes, to speak the lisan of our children, we do need to go to urbandictionary.com and know what is the language that is being used today. We need to understand what they're doing on Fortnite as they're playing consistently. We need to know who do they have the longest streak with in their Snapchat? What are they posting on Instagram? And forget their Instagram, what's their Finsta username? Because trust me, most of the kids that were in this room have a Finsta. You know about the Insta, you don't know about the Finsta. Find it, know, understand it. This is your amana. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you in this life as a trust, your children. And we know in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us, al-mal wal-banuna zinatul hayat ad-dunya. They are an adornment, but they are also a test. Both our wealth and our children. So we have to ask ourselves, how are we connecting? What are we doing? Yes, it's hard, and yes, those dishes in the sink are piling up, and yes, we've got a million other things in our mind, but our children must be our priority, because they are the future of our deen, the future of our ummah. They are the legacy that we leave behind, that inshallah will make sincere dua for us after we pass away. So as we move into those teen years, and we begin to try to understand and fathom what our children are being exposed to, we again recognize the root in that foundation. At a young age, our children might be watching, The Little Mermaid. They might be watching Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella. They might be watching Brave and Elsa. And we see the narrative that changes in how society wants our children to grow up and learn and be. And as much as we may think this is harmless entertainment, this is very often where that root of how our children see the world becomes embedded within them. And we see the change in society with the start of Cinderella, where the woman had to wait for the prince to come along on the white horse and save her. And then we see the movement towards Sleeping Beauty, she's awakened by the kiss of a man. And eventually we see the movement towards the Little Mermaid, who's willing to give up who she is in order to be with someone else. And then the shift happens. We see Merida in Brave, defying her parents and deciding, I don't need a man. We see Elsa, who essentially shows true love is not really between a man and a woman. Why are these important? We see Beauty and the Beast that, clearly showed in the new movie that came out, the normalization of a couple of the same gender. It's no accident that the world around us is pulling our children away from morality and faith. Rahmakumullah. Because it is morality and faith that is the greatest weapon against consumerism, materialism, against living in a dunya and spending. It's all about the bottom line, and our children are being used as pawns in that bottom line. Because as a Muslim community, as we're struggling to fight charges of terrorism, as we're talking about what's happening in the TSA in the airport, as we're talking about what's happening in the Middle East overseas, we are losing another war, and it's the more important war. And it's the war on trying to take our children away from the deen. Because that is a war that if we lose it, then we've lost everything. And so what is happening in the school systems? I don't know how many of you are familiar with the new curriculum that was introduced. It started in California, made its way to New York. It's now in New Jersey as well. The curriculum is called the gender-bread curriculum. And essentially, the gender-bread curriculum begins in kindergarten, and it builds each year with this concept where in kindergarten, children are invited into the classroom. There's a poster up on the wall, and the poster has like a picture of what would be like a gingerbread man. But in the area where the brain is, there's, a picture of a heart. There's a picture of a heart and where the biological sexual area would be. There's a picture of a heart by the heart. And the children are asked to come in each day and to rate. How do they feel in the mind? Do they feel male or female? How do they feel in their heart? Do they feel like they're being pulled towards the male or the female side? How do they feel biologically? And then in this gender-bread curriculum, it is built in this concept of being able to differentiate between the biological, the emotional, and the psychological. That you don't have to feel like a boy just because you have boy parts. You don't have to feel like a female just because you have female parts. You can decide here who you are. You can decide with this how you're going to act upon it. Again, what lisan is being introduced to our children at a young age to teach them this concept of non-binary gender, of gender non-conformity? What lisan is being used to reach them? It is a lisan that's sugar-coated. It is this idea from a young age. It's all about choice. Be you. Don't let anyone tell you who you are. And then as identity becomes enmeshed with concepts of sexuality, who you are becomes your sexuality. And so when we stand in the masjid and we present to our children and we talk to them and tell them that the act of homosexuality is haram, they're up in arms against us because for them it is not an act, it's an identity. And so when we say that it is the act that is forbidden in Islam, they can no longer separate between the act and who they are or who their friends are or who those around them are. So when they're on YouTube and they're watching, what's his name, Bretman Rock or Brett Rockman, something like that, when they're watching these YouTubers who are funny and kind and get them, and who also identify as homosexual, it is so hard to come at them and tell them the act is haram, the act is forbidden, because for them, you're basically telling them their friend is going to burn in hellfire. And in their mind, but this person is so much nicer than my own parents are. This person is so much funnier. This person gets me. And so we need to start working with our children on understanding what is identity. And when we try to work in this gil, in this generation, with the same tools that we used in the last generation or the generation before, we will fail. Because as Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu told us, do not raise each generation as you were raised, because their problems are different than the problems that you faced. And this has never been truer than at this time. Where all of us, when we were growing up, we may have felt at a certain time that, our parents don't understand. Our parents don't really get us. Our children feel the same. Unless we are able to connect with them, unless we're able to provide them an open, welcoming platform where we can encourage them to come to us, to speak to us, to ask us the questions. And if they're not able to break that barrier of my parents don't understand, then what tools are we giving them? Are we providing them with avenues other than Sheikh Google, which can lead them down a very dark path to ask their questions? There is an entire world, an entire industry of Islamophobia that fuels the online channels. There's this site called Ask Islam, which any teenager might go onto, or Answer Islam. I believe it's called Answering Islam. Ask Islam is actually an Islamic organization. Answering Islam, you go onto that site, any teenager may think, oh, I'm going to get the answers to Islam there. But guess what's on that site? It's complete Islamophobic propaganda. So let's know what our children are accessing. If your local library or your adult school has a class on Snapchat, please take the class. If it has a class on Twitter, on Instagram, take the class. If it has a class on, how to use technology, take the class. Let's learn the lisan that our children are using. Because it's not enough for us to sit back and just say, well, I take them to Sunday school and I teach them Quran and I've done my part. Because we have to show up. And showing up requires more than that. It requires us being accessible. It requires us facilitating. It requires us helping our children navigate all that this dunya has to offer. Because it is a scary world out there. And again, the war that's being fought is a war that is semantics. We often talk about the theory of sociolinguistic relativity, which is the idea that our words often create our world. Now, sociologists and psychologists feel very excited that they've come up with this theory. But really, when we look to our Quran, we see that in Surah Al-Baqarah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks of the creation of Adam alayhi salam, He tells us, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا, that Adam alayhi salam was taught the words. He was taught the names. He was taught the names, and it was the ilm that had belonged to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he was taught those names, those words, because it differentiated him. It differentiated humanity from the angels. It differentiated humanity from the jinn. It differentiated humanity from all of creation. And today, those same words are being used to lead our children down a path that is very dangerous. Because when we begin to equate words like cisgender with the idea that someone is biologically aligned with their identity, then we open up the door to understanding transgender. There can't be an understanding of black if there is no white. There can't be an understanding or a normalization of transgender if there is no cisgender. There can't be a normalization of homosexuality if we don't start talking about defining a category of heterosexuality. Yet 10, 20 years ago, it would be ridiculous for you to stand up and say, I'm heterosexual. It would be ridiculous to say my pronouns are she and I don't know, what she and her, as opposed to it or they. It would be unfathomable. But language, words, names empowers people to decide to create the world that they want to create. And we need to start fighting against that. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the ilm and the aql. But we need to seek it. And this is why when we teach our children, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. It's not just read, it's not just recite, but read and recite in the name of your Lord who has created you. And when we align the rational, when we align the cognitive, when we align what's happening up here with what's here, the emotional, then we begin to connect our children back to where they need to be. So when your child comes to you and says, I'm depressed, don't ignore it. When your child comes to you and says, I'm being bullied, don't tell them it's okay, just turn the other cheek, or just stand up and tell the principal and it'll be okay. When your child comes to you and says, I had an anxiety attack and that's why I didn't do well on this test, don't dismiss it. Because again, these words are powerful. These labels that we see today are powerful and often shape the reality of our children. When your child comes to you and says, I have a gay friend, don't let your first response to be, stay away from him. I don't want you talking to him or her. Understand what is happening. Speak to them about identity. Explain to them and empower them with the tools that they need cognitively, psychologically, and emotionally, as well as spiritually, to get them to where they need to be. When you find that your child is texting a boy, your female child, and they've saved the name of this boy as, Amina or Mary. When you go onto Snapchat and you see that there's, in the Snapchat streak, there's, particular person that's being connected with quite frequently. Know that if your child is hiding this from you, there is one part that is that teenage-ness of feeling like I can figure things out myself, I don't need my parents. But there's also the other part of asking yourself, how accessible am I? Is my child going to run away from me because haram, haram, haram is the mantra in my home? And I often think of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam when he was approached by the youth from the community, who said to the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam as he sat next to the Sahaba, I want to fornicate, I want to commit zina. And the Sahaba got upset. How could he have the audacity to speak to the beloved Messenger of Allah in this way, to speak of the sin so openly? And yet the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam told the Sahaba to wait. And he spoke to the youth, not by telling him that is so haram, astaghfirullah, how could you defy Allah's rule in that way? He spoke to him first cognitively. Would you want someone to do this to your mother? Would you want someone to do this to your future wife? Would you want someone to do this to your future daughter? And each time the youth said no, no, no. It was a lisan of connection, a way that that young man could understand what his action would cause. But the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not stop there. It was the cognitive, reaching the mind, but he also reached out to the young man and put his hand on his heart and made sincere dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would remove that desire from his heart. And so just as we make dua for our children, that Allah will protect them, we also need to reach them on that cognitive level. And we can't do that unless we educate ourselves. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put barakah in your time. Just make that intention that you will seek that knowledge, that ilm is important, and then empower your children with it. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects all of our children and guides them to the straight path. Jazakumullahu khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu amma ba'd. Brothers and sisters, I am thankful to Allah the Almighty to address you this morning for a few minutes. Imam Musa is an Imam that I have tremendous amount of love and respect for. Imam, I'm telling you right now, I have no idea how long I'm going to speak. No, I'm serious. There's a possibility I'll speak until 6 p.m. See you laughing. Until you wake up and say, wait a minute, he was serious. Or I may speak a few moments. I don't know if you can appreciate what Sister Suzi, Ismail have just done. It's critical what she just did. I'm going to try to give you some perspective because no matter what's happening, you have to believe that Allah knew about it. And His Messenger Muhammad alayhi salat wasalam predicted it. And that's what I'm going to try to do this morning and put this into some perspective. First, let me take a moment to talk about seeing. Seeing is critical. It's a great blessing to be able to see. Everyone can't see. It is such a gift that the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, said that whoever is tested with those two beloved things, the eyes, and they are patient, Allah give them Jannah. So if you can see, you're blessed. But in order to see, you need two things. Number one, you need eyes. 20/20 vision. But having eyes is not sufficient enough. You need eyes and you need light. I don't care how good your vision is, if you don't have light, you can't see. So there is some darkness, and then there's some broken glass all around, and there's ditches, and then there are poisonous snakes, and then there's scorpions. So because it's dark, the person gets cut, bloody, because he can't see. Not because his eyes are blind, but because there's no light. And he falls down in the ditch, getting bitten by the poisonous snake and stung by the scorpions. Not because his eyes is blind, but because there's no light. And this is why Allah says in Quran, it's not their eyes that are blind. It is their hearts within their souls. Seeing. This is why Allah mentioned in the Quran, He talks about the Torah revealed to Musa. فِيهَا هُدًى وَنُورٌ. In it is guidance and light. Allah revealed to Isa alayhi salat wasalam al-Injil. So Allah says, فِيهِ هُدًى وَنُورٌ. In it is guidance and light. So if you want to be able to see, you have to see based on the scripture that Allah has given to you. No wonder Allah the Almighty said, Ya ibadi kullukum dolun illa man hadaytu fastahduni ahdikum. Oh my slaves, every one of you, not the majority, not some, every one of you are misguided unless I guide you. Therefore, ask me and I will guide you. Who you think you are? You think you see? You have no idea how dark this world is. But Allah knew about it. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Often in the Quran you see Allah, He pairs attributes together. Ghafur Rahim, forgiving and merciful. Alimul Hakim, Allah knows, and not only does He know, He's wise. There are many people who know, they got knowledge, but they're not wise. Allah is Al-Alim, Al-Hakim. He's knowing and He's wise. Therefore, everything that happens is already written in the book. We may not know it, but we have faith in Him and we follow Him. We follow the Quran. We follow the Sunnah. We follow the prophets. And if we follow them, Allah will bless us. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on with our children, but I want to remind you of one thing in the Quran. I want to give you some perspective. إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. You cannot guide those whom you love, but Allah guides to the straight path whomever He pleases. So no matter how much we try, and try and make effort just may mean that they're going to be misguided. So this morning we have to ask the question, have we made the effort? Labor. وَلَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. Man can have nothing except for what he strives for. So the outcome is not due with us. The outcome is due with Allah. But the effort, did we make the effort? There are 4 things that I would humbly offer today about us. Someone once asked the question, how long will the building stand? Answer, how strong is the foundation? Sister Suzi, she mentioned in her talk about the foundation. And you have to ask yourself the question, have I laid down the foundation? Because they will leave if the foundation is not there. Number 1, Imam Musa, there was a mayor in New York City, the 105th mayor, named Ed Koch. I met him in the 80s. He knew me. We'd be on radio stations, television studios. And he was famous for asking this question. So when he saw me, he says, Imam Siraj, how am I doing? How am I doing? Every imam, every executive director, every youth director, every person that works in the committee must ask the question, how am I doing? We must do self-evaluation. Maybe years ago I would answer one way. I'd say, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. But now I'm not that sure. I think I can do better. How am I doing? Self-evaluation. 4 ways. Number 1, myself. How deep is my commitment to Allah? How's my iman? And you can't think that you got it made. You have to reevaluate and say, you know, I can do better. I can study more. I can read more. I can learn more Quran. I can go to more events. I could do this. So number 1, yourself. Number 2, your family. Qu anfusakum wa ahlikum. Save yourself and your family. So now, it's not just about me. I'm good. I go to the masjid every day. I'm good. I'm in the masjid of Fajr. I'm good. I'm in the masjid of Isha. I'm good. I've made a number of hajjas and umrahs and I'm good. I fast every month of Ramadan. I fast every Monday and Thursday. I'm good with my fast. I'm pretty good. What about your children? So number 1, you have to be concerned about yourself. Number 2, you have to be concerned about your children. Number 3, you must be concerned about the ummah. Yes, I spend time on myself. I spend time on my children. But what about the ummah? And so the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, raised his hand and said, Allahumma ummati ummati wa baka. Oh Allah, my ummah, my ummah. And then he started crying. He got himself, he's together. But he's not just concerned about himself, and he's not just concerned about Fatima. He's not just concerned about his family. He's concerned about the ummah. Are you concerned about the ummah? You must. And number 3, where a lot of us fail, we must be concerned about mankind. This is why Allah will ask Noah the question, Hal balagta? Did you deliver the message? Who, to your family? No, to mankind. Hal balagta? Yeah, Nam, ya Rabb. I delivered the message. Allah will ask the people, Hal balagakum? Did he deliver the message? They said, no warning came to us. And then Allah will ask Noah, who will be a witness for you? He said, Muhammad. Muhammad is my witness and his ummah. And we will bear witness that he delivered the message. I'm asking you, did Noah deliver the message? Huh? Did Noah deliver the message? I'm asking you. Yes. How many years did he preach? 950 years he preached night and day, open and in secret. In those 950 years, how many people accepted? They say about 80. 80 people in 950 years. You do the math. Did Noah fail? No. He made effort. And so today, in America and the West, we must ask the question, did we make the effort? Bernie Sanders, one of the candidates running for president of the United States of America, had a heart attack. A couple of days ago, Imam, he said something that made me think. He said, I should have paid more attention to the symptoms. You see, symptoms is a great gift from Allah. And if you study symptoms, you know some of the symptoms of a heart attack. It is scary to have a heart attack with no symptoms. It just comes right away. But if you understand symptoms, pressure, pain, light pain, you say, okay, I better check it out. I may have a heart attack. Symptoms are great. But people misunderstand symptoms and the real issue. I give an example. How many of you ever had a headache? Raise your hand. I want to make sure that, I know he's special, but we all had headaches. And usually when you have a headache, what do you take? Aspirin. And aspirin is a lie. Because aspirins don't solve the problem. They get rid of the symptom and give the illusion that the problem has been solved. What an aspirin does, it goes to the area of the pain and it deadens the nerve. So you can't feel it. It camouflages, but it's still there. And a lot of times we get rid of the symptom thinking we got rid of the problem. We never got rid of the problem. You just got rid of the symptom. So when Muslims dealing with our issues that we're dealing with, all the issues that we're dealing with, and there will be more, oftentimes we deal with the symptom and not the root of the problem. Now, permit me to give an analysis of our failing to bring this message to the world. There are two signs of a health of a community. In my opinion, this is my opinion, the Imam may differ what I'm going to say. Number one, when you see children in the masjid, that's a good sign that is a community of health. And when the children disappear, know that that's a symptom. Something's going on when the children begin to leave the masjid. Imam, I was in Detroit, and I gave a talk for that masjid. Is called the oldest masjid in Detroit. The oldest masjid has two meanings. Meaning number one, it's the first masjid in Detroit, the oldest masjid. And number two, the oldest masjid could symbolize the age of the people in that masjid. That masjid in Detroit, the oldest masjid, is called the geriatric masjid. For the average member age, 80 years old. It's an old masjid. I've been there. Where the youth? Where are the youth? Because if you don't have youth, you will die. After a while, it's gone, it's finished. I met an Imam from Turkey. He's an Imam in Argentina. Told me that, Imam, I went to Argentina, learned Spanish, spoke to the people, and how many generations of Muslims were lost. And their parents migrated there. Years ago, later, all the children left the masjid and the masjid started closing. So how do we make sure we keep the youth? Number two, may be surprising to you, Imam. This is my opinion. Every community must do dawah. Must. To make new converts or reverts, whatever you want to call them. If you look at the Prophet ﷺ, that entire first generation are people who were not Muslims. Name them. Abu Bakr, Umar, Ali, Uthman. Name all of them. Where they come from? They came from the Prophet because of his concern for humanity. And because of his concern for humanity, all those folks came into Islam. They came by the droves. We, once in a while, let's do a dawah program. No, man, no. This is our job. This is our responsibility to go for the people. And when you see people, the masses of the people come into Islam, you know that we are healthy. But when we are there by ourselves, alone by ourselves, not growing, our children leaving the masjid, no new blood coming into the masjid, sooner or later we die. Ever hear of Great Britain? They used to have a saying that the sun never sets on the Roman Empire, or the British Empire. Remember that? Why did they say that? Because it was so expansive. The British Empire all over the world. Let me give you an idea. In 1800, the British Empire consisted of 1.5 million square miles, 1.5 million square miles, and 20 million people. 1800. By 1900, it included 11 million square miles, not 1.5, 11 million square miles, and 390 million people. Is it like that now? England is the 21st largest population in the world, 65 million people. How big is it? South Africa is 5 times bigger than United Kingdom. The West controlled 35% of the Earth's land surface in 1800, 35%. By 1878, they controlled 67%. And by 1914, they controlled 84% of the land population of the world. It's not like that no more. It's changed. Why did it change? And this is what I want to talk to you this afternoon for a few moments. There are a lot of books about the rise and fall of empires, nations. Arnold Toynbee, the greatest historian of our modern times, said civilizations are not murdered, they commit suicide. And you watch all of these great civilizations, they committed suicide. In fact, suicide in this country is one of the largest causes of death. Some 47,000 people commit suicide. Not somebody killing them, but them killing themselves. What's going on? What's going on in the world? We have missed the wisdom that Allah and His Messenger have given to us. Let me give you an example. Imam Musa, unlike you, I was born with Christian parents. So I went to church, and me and my brother got an award in 1 year for 100% attendance in the church. Our job isn't to make our children Muslim. Our job is to keep them Muslim. They're born that. Our job, keep them Muslim. Allah gives us an advantage. Suzi spoke about it. I listened to a speech. I wrote notes. She hinted at it. Kullu mawludun yuludu ala fitra. By nature. Born a Muslim. Born with the nature, the fitra. What happened? وَإِذَا كِيلَ لَهُمْ اتَّبِعُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ. And when it is said to them, follow what Allah has revealed, they say, no. We will follow where we found our fathers. She mentioned it. So when they're young, it's mommy, daddy. Now they hardly even mention us. I went on a plane last year. I was the last one on the plane. It was a big plane, maybe 300 passengers. And my seat was all the way in the back. I never forget this. So when I walked on the plane and I walked to the back of the plane, I was watching both sides, and every person on that plane had a device. Everyone, no exceptions. Everyone had a device, and they were into the device. They didn't even see me, and I'm going down, and everybody's working on their devices. I got one too. And so do the Imam. Right there. Years ago, the 10 o'clock news, the reporter came on and said, "It is 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?" Now we ask the question, any hour of the day, do you know where your children are? They may be in their bedroom, they may be in the living room, they may be in the house, but they're not there. They're somewhere else. So how are we going to get them back? It's easier to preserve them than to bring them back. It's a challenge. When they're gone, it's a challenge. I'll be honest with you, it's a challenge. They've been affected. So you don't give up, but you try and you make effort. But it is easier. You got young children now, 4, 5, 6 years old. It's like, man, my baby gonna be a Muslim, inshallah. So what are we gonna do? What's the answer? The answer is simple. But how to do it is a little bit more difficult. The Prophet put it this way. He said, "Kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'yatihi." Every one of you is a shepherd, and everyone is held accountable for your flock. Wa rajulun ra'in fi ahlihi wa huwa mas'ulun an ra'yatihi. And the man is the shepherd over his family. Oh, we a shepherd. Yeah, you're a shepherd. We a shepherd. You're a shepherd. What did the Prophet say? Peace and blessing be upon him. He says, "Ma ba'ath Allah nabiyyin ila ra'a ghannum." Allah has never sent a prophet except he first sent him as a shepherd. A shepherd. Wow. A shepherd. You ever notice? How many of you made Hajj? Raise your hand. Good. How many of you sacrifice a sheep or goat? Raise your hand. Okay. Imam, I ask you a question because you remind me of a tough person. No. This ain't. No. Don't be fooled by that beautiful smile. This Imam is tough. Let me ask you a question. If Allah had commanded you to sacrifice a lion rather than a sheep, would you have done it?
I'll try.
I'm like, boss, see, I told you. He's even saying I would try. I ain't gonna try. Sacrifice a lion? Yeah, what? Give it to Imam Musa, he'll do it. Why sheep? Because if you study animals, the most vulnerable is the sheep. Study the animals. Every animal has a weapon to defend itself, to attack other animals, or to get away. Some animals have blinding speed so that they run away from the animals. Some animals have the ability to fly, so they flap their wings and they get away. Sheep are slow. They can't fly. Some animals have, teeth, claws. Some animals, the massive size, the elephant, the bear, the massiveness. Some animals, the only thing they have is the ability to camouflage themselves. So they have the ability to take the color of its surroundings. But a sheep ain't got nothing like that. The sheep depends upon the shepherd to save its life. Likewise, our children depend upon us to save their lives. Sheep don't even know that they're going into danger. That's why we got to watch the sheep. We got to watch them. You got to be, if you're going to be a shepherd, you got to watch every one of them. Oh, no, don't go over there. Don't you go over there. You got to corral them. You got to watch them. So what Suzi is saying is that we got to be shepherds. In my conclusion, I went to Scotland. Saturday afternoon, 1 o'clock. My driver, Naeem, we were driving down Main Street, and I looked to the right, and there was a huge church. And people were going into the church. I said, Naeem, what denomination is that? 1 o'clock on Saturday going to church. He said, Imam, that's not a church. It's a pub. It's a pub. People go there to drink alcohol. It's a pub. And he said, by law in United Kingdom, if something is built as a church, you can never change the structure. You can put whatever you want, but you can't change the structure. So as we were driving down Main Street, he said, Imam, look to your left. That there, that's not a church, and 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 that's not a church. Since 1960, 10,000 churches in United Kingdom have been closed. And they said by next year, another 4,000 will be closed. What's going on? Around the world, you have to look and see those who came before you to see what's going on. We're blessed. We're blessed because we're the last people to come with the Quran. We're blessed. Why? Because we can look at the mistakes. Those who came before us, we can see the mistakes they made and avoid those mistakes that they made. So, I'm not going to do that. Let me just read this to you. It's a nice article written by Pastor James McDonald, Walking in the Word Ministries. Listen to what he said. Of the 250,000 Protestant churches in America, 200,000 are either stagnant or with no growth and declining. 4,000 churches close every single year. There are less than half the number of churches today than there were only 100 years ago. 3,500 people leave the church every single day. And more. the West is dying. I'm not trying to be cruel to you, but the facts are there. If you ask them the question, how am I doing? You're not doing very well. Our country spends more money on defense than the next 9 countries combined. So we spend a lot of money on military. And even though we spend all this money on military, the nation is dying. Arnold Toynbee, the greatest historian of modern time, he wrote a 12-volume book, thousands of pages. And he said of the 22 civilizations that have appeared, 19 of them died, collapsed, when they reached the moral state that the United States is in now. It's over. Western society, as we know, is over. This is why I read their books. Patrick Buchanan wrote a book called The Death of the West. Let me read one thing he said in The Death of the West. I hope I have it here. I don't want to misquote it. Listen to what he said. You know, Imam, sometimes you read a book, and of the book, there may be one chapter or paragraph or sentence that makes you say, wow. Listen to what Patrick Buchanan said, page 48, The Death of the West. The irony of ironies, today, in aging, dying Christian West, is pressing the third world and the Islamic world to accept contraception, abortion, and sterilization, as the West have done. And listen to this. When he said, I said, I talked to myself, I said, Siraj, I said, yes. I said, did you hear what he just said? Listen to what he said. But why should they enter a suicide pact with us when they stand to inherit the earth when we are gone? Huh? What do you mean when we are gone? Imam, hand me that notebook, please. Thank you. Have you noticed in the last number of years how many black people were killed by white police officers? Right? Recently, in Dallas, Amber Geiger was convicted of killing a person in his own apartment building. She came into his apartment and killed him, right? So she was convicted. Let me give you some perspective. You have to understand the history of America. Experts say that 85% of the cases adjudicated are won and lost in the very jury selection process. So years ago, hardly any white person was convicted against a black person. That's just the reality. Take my word for it, you can do the research, right? Let me say, Imam, what I just read. Presently, this happened in Dallas. Presently, in Dallas, 52% of the population is Hispanic. 29% is white. 24% black. Okay? The mayor of Dallas is black. The police chief of Dallas, black. The Dallas County District Attorney is black. The judge who presided over the case, black. Of the 12 jurors and 4 alternatives, 7 of them African Americans, 4 white, and 5 others. See the trend? The population of America is changing. Islam is growing. In a few years, white will be a minority in this country. Things are changing. So, what's my conclusion? And this is my conclusion. The Prophet ﷺ said, لَتَتَّبِعُنَّ سَنَنَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ شِبْرًا بِشِبْرًا وَذِرَاعًا بِذِرَاعٍ إِلَى آخِرِهِ, to the end. You Muslims will follow. You will. And he used what is called lam ibtida'. It's the lamb of intensity. You're definitely it's gonna happen. Without a doubt, you will follow the sunnah. You will follow the ways of those who came before you, and step by step and inch by inch, so that if they crawled in the hole of a lizard, you would fall right behind them. That's what she's telling you. You're not surprised. He predicted it. Alayhi salatu wasalam. And he made such a crazy, like, who gonna fall in the hole of a lizard? You. That's how weird it's gonna get. So what can we do? Can we beat prophecy? No. But we can say, I think I heard the Imam say yesterday, someone said, not on my watch. I'm going to look, I'm going to try. So that I'm going to do everything I can, I'm going to make effort. When Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, I'm finished, can you give me a few more minutes? So tell me, I can stop now. Huh? Don't, keep going? Don't encourage me. Just a little bit. You know, the constant dripping of water on a stone will drill a hole in the stone. Not a hurricane, not a flood, not a tornado. You see, it looks innocent. But slowly, like that frog in the experiment with the frog, the scientists put a frog in a bowl of boiling hot water. And when they put the frog in the water, the frog jumped out. And then the scientists got a cool bowl of water and put the frog in the cool water, and the frog was chilling, having a good time. And the scientists put a very, very, very low flame on the water, so it slowly, ever so slowly, began to heat up. And that frog stayed in that water until it died, because it couldn't distinguish the subtle changes. Our children in the public school, 95% of Muslim children go to public school. Only 5% of Muslim children go to Muslim full-time schools. What you think they're going to get? All the things that Suzi spoke about. They're going to get that. And you see, brothers and sisters, everything about health is diet and exercise. Diet and exercise. Eat the right food, exercise. Right? So the right food, Quran. The best of you, those who learn the Quran and teach it. It's the sunnah, learning that. The exercise of religion. You can't expect your children not to make salat and they're going to be successful. It's not going to happen, because that's the formula. You got to fast. You got to do all those kind of things. But another thing, you can lose your deen overnight. Yusihu rajulun mu'min wa yumsi kafir. Person will begin the day believing, and by the end of the night, they disbelieve. Why? Why? What is it? What happened? Trials, tested, bullying, beat up, all of that. Islamophobia, all of that is too much what's happening in Palestine. It's too much what's happening in Yemen. It's too much what's happening in Syria. It's too much what's happening to the Muslims around the world. The Muslims in China, the Muslims in Burma, all of that. The trials may make a person leave the deen. But you see, what you're listening to. Imam, would you believe that I can quote Shakespeare? Yeah. You believe that? All right, Imam. Poor thing. I love this Imam. I love it so much. You know what happens? Our children watch a lot of stuff. They watch movies and, internet and all that stuff, right? Novels, short stories. You got to be careful because sometimes authors can embed their philosophy in their artwork. So you just hear the rhythmic beat, but what's being said? I'll give you one example with Shakespeare. Imam, I hope I remember. Macbeth. You ever read Macbeth? Yeah? Did you like it? Yeah. Macbeth's wife just died. And he's feeling sad, and listen to what he said. Now, don't forget, it's not Macbeth saying it, it's Shakespeare saying it. In his work. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor play that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and is heard no more. It's a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. What? Run that back. Life is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing? Is that the meaning of life? No. No. So we watched the movie. Somebody mentioned yesterday the movie Joker. What? Joker, the movie. No. It ain't just a movie. It ain't just a song. If loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right. Huh? What? What are you talking about? I can't live if living without you. For real? Honestly, that's the way it is. So, brothers and sisters, in my conclusion, don't forget, those who came before us was just like us. This is why the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, said, Al-anbiya'u ikhwatun li'alatin ummahatum shatta wa dinuhum wahid. The prophets, all of them are brothers. Their mothers are different, but their religion is one. So those prophets that came before us, that's Islam. But yet the people, they went away. And we're going to follow. The only thing we can do is make effort. Number one, dua. Qala rabbukum ud'uni astajib lakum. Your Lord said, call upon me, I will ask you. Did Ibrahim alayhi salat make a dua that Allah would raise one from among them? Did Allah answer the dua? Who was the answer? Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he says, I am da'wat abi Ibrahim. I am the answer of the supplication of my father Ibrahim. But how long did it take for that answer to come? How many years? Thousands of years. So sometimes Allah is not saying no, but he's saying not now. Make dua as the prophets made about their offspring. Yaqub asked the question, what will you worship after me? He's concerned not just about himself, he's concerned about his children and his grandchildren. And you look who came from the line of Yaqub, you'd be shocked. So what I'm saying this afternoon, make effort, learn, educate yourself like people like Sisters Suzi, let us know in the deal. I learned some stuff today. There's a word I learned, but I learned that I can't say it publicly. I did learn that. Me and the Imam, we looked it up. What's smash? I was innocent before I came here. I will lie, I never heard that in my life. You have put stuff in the mind of the Imam. Listen, it's difficult. Ain't no easy answer. Allah blessed me with 9 children. 5 of them good Muslims, alhamdulillah. 4 of them, they struggle. We're not exempt because you Imam, you're an alim, you're not exempt. So I'm trying to find out how can I get the rest. But one thing I've learned to do, I always keep my door open. No matter what my children is going through, I keep the door open. I never cut them off. Keep talking to them. Keep working. Keep having programs. Keep trying. And then may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless our effort and keep focus on that Quran for yourself, for your family, for the ummah. And please don't forget the non-Muslims to bring them to the fold of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
May Allah bless Sister Suzi and Imam Siraj. Say Ameen. May Allah bless them immensely in this dunya and in the life hereafter. Say Ameen. May Allah bless their families. Say Ameen. Alhamdulillah, what a great blessing to have such amazing scholars. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them. I will keep it short because I shouldn't even be talking, but I'm here to learn from amazing teachers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase them in blessings and knowledge, and have many people, including us, benefit from their knowledge. Say Ameen. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد النبي الأمين وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه أجمعين ومن اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين وعنا معهم برحمته وفضله وكرمه. Dear brothers and sisters, the message is very straightforward. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا. Imam Siraj explained it. Save yourselves and your offspring or families from a hellfire. Very clear. And Sister Suzi mentioned it early on. She said you need to start listening to your children from a very young age. So we have to come back and reevaluate ourselves, like Imam said. We're not perfect parents. We will never be perfect beings. We are human beings, and therefore it is an opportunity for us to grow every time, every day, every learnable or teachable lesson, inshallah, or experience. I had a 26-year-old young, educated, Caucasian, American, non-Muslim friend of mine. And one day I asked him, where are you going to watch? His name is Kevin. I said, Kevin, where are you going to watch the Super Bowl? It's a big deal, growing up. So he says, I'm going to watch it like every year with my best friend. And I asked him, who's your best friend? Who's that? And he says, my dad. Kevin's dad, Kevin coached our Muslim school basketball team. And his father would come and volunteer, helping him coach almost every time. Go to his games as a 26-year-old adult teacher. And I wonder how many of us have children that when I ask them, or anyone asks them, who are you going to watch a Super Bowl with, or who's your best friend, and they say, my dad or mom. I'm not asking you to change being a parent, but how to be a parent and how close you should be to your children. Especially, as Sister Suzi said, how many in this environment of touchy-feely, lovey, caring kind of environment. We're not in the Middle East. We're not in India. We're not in Pakistan. We're in America. and we have to understand our environment. So therefore, take that food for thought on how you can hopefully have your children be a little bit closer to you. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam said, إِنَّمَا يَأْكُلُ الذِّئْبُ مِنَ الْغَنَمِ الْقَاصِيَةِ. Imam Siraj said that كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ. He quoted the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, every one of you is a guardian or shepherd. وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. That was the topic of last khutbah. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam furthermore says, the wolf eats the stray sheep. And the example is we are the sheep and the wolf is shaitan. And the stray means one who lives away from the Muslim community and doesn't participate in their activities. Today I had to send an urgent message. Imam, forgive me, and Sister Suzi are sitting on the table. I wasn't texting my friends. I was sending a message to our ICGC community WhatsApp because I got from the organizers information and panic that we don't have enough attendees. That's why we delayed you back there a little bit. And when I'm looking at these chairs, there's quite a few empty chairs here. And as we evaluate ourselves, we need to evaluate us collectively. And when I don't see parents at 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning in a parenting session with people extremely experienced, knowledgeable, coming and hailing all the way from Jersey and New York, and we're sitting here, God knows what we're doing as parents. So we need to put an effort to come and learn, because I don't see the urgency in many of us in action. You can say it, but we're not seeing it right here as much as I'd like it to be. So when we go back to our parents, because we have a lot of friends, we all know them, I know them, I come to your parties. So you give a little, because a real caring friend is not one that always tells you what you want to hear. It's one that tells you what you need to hear. And please, when you go back, we know we have 2 weddings there. I have people waiting for me to do their nikah, and I'm delaying them a little bit. And then I have another marriage at 1 o'clock. And many of us are going to be there. But when we see our folks, not just at weddings, they may have other things on their mind, but the 10 people or 9 other people on your table, they're not performing the wedding or part of the planning process. Give them a nudge and tell them you needed to be here this morning. And when your masjid, because the Prophet ﷺ said the wolf eats the stray sheep or attacks it, if we don't come to these gatherings, we're part of the stray sheep. I'm not kidding. Shaitan will get us and our kids if we don't come here and gain the tools. And these are just means, necessary but means. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings descend. Imam was saying, make dua. Our tawakkul is upon Allah. And when we come here, Allah will guide our children. Allah will guide our children. We're taking the tools, we're putting the effort. Allah will see that, and Allah says in His word is truth. إِنَّا لَا نُضِيعُ أَجْرَ مَنْ أَحْسَنَ عَمَلًا. Surely we will not let go in vain the hard work of or good work of people that do good work. Allah will not let it go in vain, go to loss. So again, these gatherings, our masajid is Noah's Ark to save our identity as Muslims anywhere in the world, especially today. And on a lighter note, the word of the day, smash. So we use that, Imam, as a slang, but we didn't use it for internet purposes. So, I think I don't know if he's Muslim or not, he made a song, and he would, he's African, very good singer. It's like, smash that everywhere, something like that, yeah, and it was, yeah. What's his name again? Akon, yes, it's a very rhythmic song. You can hear it, So, don't be shy to sit down and talk to your children. This is something I have a lot of material on that I'll be touching upon, inshallah, soon. Is Islam gives us alternatives. We misunderstand Islam and we project it in a very inaccurate way. Haram, haram, haram. So we we envision a cage, and that's where we put ourselves or kids in. It's not the case. It's the other way around. Everything is halal with the exception of the few things that Allah has made haram. There hasn't been a single haram except that Allah gave an alternative. So don't consume alcohol, but drink whatever you want. Chai, coffee, milk, juices, anything you like. It doesn't intoxicate you. Do we see how it's different? Zina is haram. Marriage is perfectly halal, and we should put an effort to make it easy. And so forth. Gambling is haram, business is halal. There's always an alternative. So always sit and talk to your children. And for the sake of time, I'll leave you with a joke. Hopefully it's not too inappropriate. But you know how Rasulullah ﷺ explained, وَفِي بِضْعِ أَحَدِكُمْ صَدَقَةٌ. And having intimacy, you will get reward. And one of the Sahaba said, "Oh, Messenger, with this we get reward?" He said, "Did you see? How about if someone performs it in haram? Don't they get sin?" He said, "Yeah." He says, "Likewise, if you do it in halal, you get reward." So I was having a conversation with a college friend, and he and I were making a joke, and we're talking about when we get married and all those jokes, and at the end of the day, you know how you get hasanat from that, so we coined a term. Now this word will never come out of your head, Sheikh. And the term was smashing cash. This is in halal ways. You get rewards, right? So you cash hasanat. So smashing cash. Hopefully some of you will have a pathway to Jannah through that. But anyhow, I conclude. May Allah bless each and every one of you. May Allah preserve our children. May Allah preserve our Imam, our amazing experts, Sister Suzi, who's also a scholar in her field and a big da'i. May Allah preserve all those who have come here. May Allah use us to go and give a nudge to our rest of the community members to come here more often. These are gems. These are amazing programs. We all should be attending, and we should all bring friends next time, inshallah ta'ala, because it's important. This ship will sail, and we want to be on the ship that we save our identity as Muslims. May Allah bless each and every one of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
I like to say one thing. Whether at time you talk very loudly, it raises your blood pressure, it isn't good. So just